Hi, welcome to the part 2 of this video series. In this part, we are covering the AZ304 important exam questions. These are very much real exam questions, so the chances of getting these questions in the exam is very high. Please remember that the certification exam will not or probably not have the same exact question. That's why focusing on the concepts is important, because even if the options are swapped, you will still be able to get to the right answer. Please subscribe to my channel and like my videos. It keeps me motivated to put on some more content similar to these. For previous questions, please refer part 1 of this video series. Now let's jump to the questions. So for the previous question, please refer part 1 of this video series. So our first important step is to identify the keywords. So basically this story is saying that you have an Azure storage and you have file shares, and different users will need access to different types of file shares. The access also needs to be at different levels. Now they are doing it through user account or group membership. We need to recommend additional Azure services. We don't want to recommend in services for this purpose. We need to recommend additional Azure services that must be used to support the planned deployment. See, enterprise application, AD enterprise application, why it is used is the global admins for your organization will have access to third party applications. Okay. So you have an Azure gallery, Azure AD gallery, and the someone publishes their external apps there. So your global admin can see and provide access for your organization to those apps. So that is a different purpose. We do not have this use case in this question. So A is wrong. B, information protection. Suppose you have Azure storage, a lot of files are there. You don't know which one has confidential information and which one has PII information. You can use this software, Azure Information Protection, to categorize and tag them like these are uh, confidential information. That is not the use case here. Okay, so if you see this, this is Azure Information Protection. It's a cloud-based solution, and it is used to discover, classify, and protect documents and emails. Now, this software also works on your premises, on-prem also, and it will scan the file repositories for sensitive content, and they will label it, classify it, and protect it. So it does both the ways, on cloud as well as on-prem, and it protects information. Now let's look at option D, Azure front door instance. This is kind of a load balancer, an external one. So if you see this documentation, it says, so if you look at this, the front door works as layer 7. So it's just similar to a load balancer. What it does is it will route your requests uh, to your client request to the fastest and the most available application backend. This is what it does. So what this front door does is it provides a range of traffic routing methods. So since front door is similar to a load balancer, this will not work here, because our question is really looking at providing access to the file shares which are on storage, Azure storage. So that leaves us with Azure Domain Services instance. Let's look at what is this, option C. So this stuff like AD domain services, what it does is it provides a managed solution for you. It will help you manage group policies, LDAP, NTLM, Kerberos, etc. All those sort of authentication that is fully compatible with Windows AD. It will do that for you, and it can do it without managing, deploying, or patching the domain controllers itself. So primarily what is the use of this is it actually integrates your existing AD tenant. So in this question, see, if you see this question, we already have an Active Directory tenant. What we are trying to do is we're trying to integrate this. Okay, Why we are integrating? Because it helps users to sign in. Suppose you have LDAP and you have NTLM etc. on your premises, and for different applications you are using all of those stuff. Now what happens is it integrates it so that just via AD you will be able to manage all of these different authentication systems. And the best part is this also enables password hash synchronization. So the authentication can be done at the Azure Active Directory, or if you want, and usually what happens is we also do a pass through so that your Active Directory in Azure sends it to on-prem Active Directory. But in this case, it enables password hash synchronization, which enables Azure Active Directory to do all sort of authentication and validation. So option C is the right answer. And we have shown why it is so. In order to summarize, information protection protects your information on your all the files and etc which has confidential information. Enterprise application enables access to third party applications which are available on the Azure AD gallery. And front door is similar to load balancer. Basically it is routing to the most fastest end of the application. So none of these three suits here because the use case is different. So we lock our answer and move forward to the next question. So this is a question, a big question, long question. Please pause this video here to read the question at leisure. Basically what is happening here is the application, there was an application one, and it was developed by Fabricam. Okay, and they were assigned some access through RBAC. Okay, now you need to recommend a solution to verify if Fabricant developers still require this application access. So what the keywords here is are, in fact there are three stuff that are needed. To the manager of the developer, send a monthly email. If the manager does not verify access permission, automatically revoke and minimize development effort. So whenever you see such kind of stuff, no, it is simple. You need access review. If you have access review, then only you will get email messages to review. If you don't review it in time, it will revoke the access, and it minimizes the development effort in order to establish this kind of protocol. So if you see options A and B will be of no use here, because you are only doing a get user app role assignment or a get role assignment. What will these two do for you? You will only know if who is still having access. Okay, but if you want someone, it will not send you automatic emails if you do these two stuff. So that's for sure. Now third is this in my opinion is right, because you're creating an access review will send email alerts and etc to verify if this permission needs to be revoked or still granted. The last one says ADPIM to create a custom role assignment for application one resources. So if you see PIM by nature, it is a service in AD that enables you to manage, control, and monitor access to important resources in your organization. So suppose in your organization you know that these two databases are very important, then you can put a PIM, and that way you can manage, control, and monitor access to that resource. So privilege PIM, what it does is it provides you just in time privilege access to perform some maintenance activities. So what happens is it reduces your chances of malicious actors getting in that access and doing some inadvertent things which will impact your sensitive resources. So this, we don't have this kind of requirement here. PIM will not automatically send emails, monthly alerts, and etc. Access review will send that. So if you see this documentation, users access can be reviewed on a regular basis to make sure only the right people have continued access. So how do you do access review? Either you can start the access review process from the notification email. Whenever the email is sent, you can click there and you can start your access review. It will take you to the portal. Or when you get the email, you can directly go to the site and do your review. Now there is a rider here. It says that there can be a delay of 24 hours for receiving these emails. Okay. And now what can be done is you can either approve or deny access to one or more users. You will get this screen. Either you can approve, deny, or if you don't know, you can click don't know. The best part of this tool is it will also provide you recommendations like this user has not signed in last 30 days, so you may choose to deny. I mean, ideally it is recommending that you should deny. Okay, and you can say accept recommendations. This is also possible. I mean, you can go to the portal directly like this. You will get this and sample review. You can click begin review and start the review. So this review can be done whoever is in that authority who can provide grant access or revoke access. So that person can only review it. So this is the right answer. Option C is the right answer. We will move forward now to the next question. Let's move to this question. You may pause this video here to read this carefully. So if you see this question, it is simple here. You have an app one which is running on 5 VMs. You may add new VMs later. Like it says, additional VMs will be deployed later to run app one. That is possible. And then these are the activities. Like you need to recommend solution that will run app one. So first is you need to ensure that virtual machines can authenticate via AD to gain access to key vault and etc. So if I look at these, for me, user assign manage identity is this stuff that you can do it. Avoid assigning new roles and permissions to Azure services when you deploy additional virtual machines. That is again a managed identity solution. Avoid storing secrets and certificates on virtual machines. We never do that. The secrets and certificates are usually stored on Azure Key Vault, and minimize the administrative effort for managing the identities. So since this is telling about minimizing the effort for managing identities, common sense says it has to be managed identities only. So one of option B or option D would be right. Now this is not a question for using a certificate because nowhere it talks about certificates. So let's look at the options. Option A, it suggests service principal that is configured to use a certificate. So if you see why a service principal for a certificate is used, so if you have a app or a script that needs to access resources, then you can set up an identity for the app and authenticate the app by its own credentials. This identity is known as service principal. So basically, we don't have this requirement in our use case. We do not have to provide access to run some scripts and etc. Here we are talking that app is there on 5 virtual machines, and these are the requirements they are saying. Virtual machines should be able to authenticate AD users, which can then gain access to key vaults, etc. Okay, and we should not store secrets and certificates on virtual machines. Let's look at option C, a service principal that is configured to use a client secret. Now, this is useful when suppose you have some application like Terraform. Okay, what does Terraform do is it is a software which provides you infrastructure as a code. It creates the code for your infrastructure. That is Terraform. Now, if Terraform has to gain access to your systems, it will do it through service principal using a client secret. See, in this case, you don't have this use case. So we have to now look at this is a managed identity use case, and in some ways the question tells you here that it is a managed identity use case because it says minimize administrative effort for managing identities. So if you see this documentation, there are two types of managed identities. The key difference that I would suggest is, see, system assigned, it is associated with a resource. For example, a VM, it is associated with a VM. Now, in our example, at present you have 5 VMs on which this application is deployed. Okay. So if I create a system managed identity, so today I have 5 VMs, tomorrow I may have 3, or I may have more, more than 5. Like this question says, additional VMs will be deployed later. And the question also says, avoid assigning new roles and permissions for Azure services when you deploy additional VMs. So we don't want this also. We want to avoid it. So that's why we should use user assigned managed identity because it is not tied to a resource. It is not linked to the life cycle of a resource. If you delete the VM, your system managed identities will also drop. But in this case, the user managed identity, it is not linked to the resource. So like you see in this documentation, you can create it a user managed identity, and assign it to one or more instances of Azure service. So if you see this, the identity is managed separately from the resource, and that is what we need. We may keep adding and dropping VMs, but we don't want this to be tied up to your resource. Hence, this should be our answer. Let's move forward to the next question. So here in this question, we are designing a large Azure environment, and this is a Azure policy question. Basically, it's asking what what is the scope where you can assign the policy definitions. See, policy definitions, always remember, we assign it at a container level. Any container which can hold resources, or which has logical resources. For example, management groups, subscriptions, resource groups. They all are some sort of logical containers. The policy definition is never for AD tenants or AD admin units. It is never at that level. So these three are our answers. So if you see this uh, documentation, you can see subscription and management group is mentioned. Resource group is not mentioned, but it also says uh, so the location should be resource container, so which can also be a resource group. So if there are two options, better choose management groups and subscriptions. If there are three, then also add resource groups. Let's look at the next question. You may pause this video to read this question. So these three are the requirements, and we need to suggest which type of load balancer will have these three supported. If you need HTTPS support, you need layer 7 support. So Azure load balancer is a layer 4 support. See, internal load balancer, it is internal. That means no HTTPS protocol. Normally, when we use uh, confidential database, we keep it behind an ILV. So this is wrong for these three scenarios. Now, traffic manager. See, this is a DNS based load balancer. It is. It will not. It is not meant for this HTTPS protocol or round robin. This is wrong. Now, application gateway. It supports round robin. Let's see in the documentation. If you see this, uh, the frequently asked questions for application gateway, you see it is a layer 7 load balancer. That means it supports HTTP, HTTPS, etc. Okay, and it has support for round robin for load balancing traffic. Now, SSL offloading is similar to TLS termination. Here we are seeing this TLS termination, that is same as SSL offloading. TLS is the next version of SSL. It is encryption, decryption stuff. So we will lock our answer and move to the next question. So in this question, if you see, this is a question which is related to a serverless solution. So you may read this question by pausing this video. These are all the keywords. So whenever you see a serverless question, it's always linked to functions, Azure functions. So if I want to use my common sense, I will select answer A. Option A is the right answer, just because The serverless term is always used with functions. Let's look at what is logic apps. You can create automated workflows. Normally, you create solutions for business to business scenarios. Business to business can be a company addressing needs of the other company. Now, this very much aligns with the functionality we need, like scheduling and sending email notifications, routing and processing the customer orders, and move any uploaded files from a SFTP or FTP server. So in our question, we have to do a similar thing. Like we have to run a script once an hour to identify whether duplicate files. So there is some sort of action, some sort of logic. That's why we use a logic app. And since it is serverless, for example, you you know process the email response when the deletion was approved. So those kind of logic can be built in logic apps and using Azure functions. But let us also look at what is Azure Batch, because we have two options with Azure functions, that is option A and option D. So if you have to run large scale parallel high performance computing, then you use Azure Batch. So how it does is it creates a lot of compute nodes to run these jobs. So if you see in this question, we do not have a need for running large high performance jobs. The need is to build a logic and build a flow for approval and deletion. So option A is the right answer. So please subscribe to my channel and like my videos. If you have any constructive or any word of appreciation, please drop in your comments. This brings us to the end of part 2 of this video series. Stay tuned for some more parts. See you in the next part of this video series.